speaker is going to be Dr. Kishore. He's a very, very senior doctor from Pune. And I'll just flash his introduction here. Just a moment. I need to go on screen share. Dr. Kishore is going to be talking about the swept source biometry and how it can enhance our clinical outcomes and patient experience. And I would say, the thing is that you could be the best cataract surgeon. You could make the most round capsulorhexis, most bloodless surgery, most clear cornea. If your biometry is not on mark, you have an unhappy patient. So biometry is something which he's going to be talking about. So I'll just give an introduction. He's the director of Natasha Eye Care. The name rings a bell here. We will see Dr. Natasha in a little while in Pune. He's the director of Nirmaya Hospital and is the chief of the ophthalmology department there. A very senior practicing cataract surgeon, refractive surgeon since last 32 years. He's a very high volume surgeon. And he's known for his charity work, the kind of charity work he does, and diagnostic surgical camps for the needy and poor people in society. And he's received innumerable awards and accolades all over the years. So over to Dr. Kishore now, and he'll be bringing to us the newer available paradigm shifts in our biometry and how are they essential for us to improve our patient experience and clinical outcomes. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. It's my scene.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much for kind words. And at the outset, thank my healthcare people for making me the part of this webinar. I'm just going to talk about a swept source biometry because I have no financial disclosures, but most often we get patients like this. I mean, at that time, we had the instruments or the biometers, which we thought that probably they are going to give us. But then if you get patients like this, then our routine IOL master, lens star and all that, we can't get on that. So the new biometers on the market are, if you see in the market, there are so many available in the market. Every company comes up with their new biometer. And because the IOL power calculations has become an utmost importance, because patient expectation has gone very high, and then we have to come to their expectations. So your target for your post-op emmetropia has to be on your priority list. So if you see that today, what are the available, we have so many, but what are the available in the market are the IOL Master 700, Argus Movu, Tommy 1000, and then is sent from Heidelberg is an anterior. So let us, if you see that still, this was in a paper I was just reading that is still in the press. This is in a comparison of an anterior segment measurements obtained by a different swept source OCT based biometers. So I'm just going to go detail that what is actually in a swept source OCT. If you look at a time domain OCT, which was in a very old, and then we used to have that for a old where the mirror used to move and the resolution was a little really poor. And then the Fourier domain can have this, see the mirror moves, and then you can't get an A scans which are really within a high speed. But then after that, the swept source can do this, where you can have a high speed scans where the mirror doesn't move, but you have a spectrometer which measures this. So if we understand that why it's faster, because it gives about 20 decibels into 100, so the sensitivity is very, very high. And what it does is when it gives an image, because it's in a very high speed, here we are seeing it very slow, so it just forms an A-scan images, which gives an A-scans, and then it forms an a B-scan image. And this is in a time domain, and this is in a Fourier domain. So you can see the difference of an quality here. So what I'm just going to talk about is the OCTs, they work from an 800 almost about 1300 nanometers wavelength. But the advantage of a 1060 nanometer wavelength is that it works, it has a less of an scatter, and also because 800 works only for the retina because it's a high scatter and low water absorption. and then 1060 is moderate. So I mean it has an moderate absorption, so it can work in the anterior and the biometers and also for the posteriors, while the 1310 is the only for an anterior segment. As we go still higher up, probably tomorrow we'll have an OCT which will be having only a tear film assessment, will have a penetration of maybe about 2 millimeter or 3 millimeter. And when we have a SWAT source, the parameters it captures is and almost about 8-9 parameters will it captures, and also it can give a scan. Like this is an image from an Argus which I had actually in a demo with me almost for about 2 months. It gives an image from an anterior to posterior, like it gives an image from a cornea to retina. Then we have an IOL master. I'll just give a little intro about these two. So this came, the advantage of an IOL master 7, which came as a total kilometer because it does an anterior and a posterior. While if you see the comparison which was done with an IOL master with the IOL master 500 and the Galilei and manual keratometry, so the reliability of the K readings with IOL master was really very good. So these are the publications which compared the IOL master with other biometers and also the old generation of biometers. Then the Argus move, it also has an 1060 wavelength, and I mean this is the author coming which has read. It's easier to use and quicker than our lens star and IOL master, and can capture data within a dense cataract where the other two may fail. It takes hardly about 0.6 seconds to have that data. So this is in a comparison of an Argus IOL master 700 and a Tomy 8000. The biggest advantage with an Tomy 8000 that we have is that it has an automatic alignment, where the other two, they don't have it. So we are just going to talk about our, I mean, which I own it now, and then I'm really in love with this machine, which is an OA 2000. It takes 8-9 measurement just in one shot, and if you see that how it does it, I mean it does an automatic alignment, and then you the first you get is the pachymetry, then you get the entry chamber depth, and then you get the lens thickness, and then after that you get an axial length, and then on the front surface also, because it has a topographer, so it gives you a pupil and white to white measurements, and also a K1, K2 measurements. Now, why we have so many measurements? Because if you have a K values, which I mean, it also has an advantage if you have an Leica microscope. So this can work like an Calista or an Varion. So you can just take the data from here and put in your microscope. And axial length and ACD and lens thickness, these all has become mandatory for all the IOL power calculations formulas. While topography, you can diagnose the patients for, let's say, coronary keratoconus detection, and the pachy when you plan for an aphakic IOL, and then pupil diameter when you're planning for a multifocal IOL, and also in a corneal diameter. So this one machine can be used for so many. It's not only in a biometer which you have to use only for your cataract, but this can be used for so many other equipments. Now, why there is a difference between an ultrasound and optical measurements? Why you want an optical measurement? Because the ultrasound takes from an inner limiting membrane, while the optical takes from a retinal pigment epithelium. So this, and also the advantage within an OA 2000 is that it also has a conversion from an immersion and a contact. So suppose you are used to a previous calculation, so you can have your data compared with a new and see that how much the reliability is improving. Now, the biggest advantage which I feel that OA 2000 has it has a built-in topography. Now, what are the advantage of a topography? I mean, it gives you three rings which has the measurements of your K readings. like suppose if it's in a 3 millimeter, so that means what we use to have in a contact a normal diameter for an keratometer. Then 2.5 millimeter, which we use for an immersion, like it's an IOL master, same as an IOL master. And 2 millimeter when you have a regular cornea or an keratoconus where you want to do an biometry or an IOL power calculations. So this you can select it because it has 3 rings, and you can just select that whatever the K readings that you want to get it for. And it's displayed as a K1 and K2. It's calculated from an elliptical approximation of an 32 of an 256 points at an 2.5 millimeter. So K1 is generated from the major axis, and the K2 is generated from the minor axis. So that means K1 will be in a flatter meridian, while the K2 is going to be an astigmatic meridian. So that means when you do that, so you also have to look at an axis that where you are going to put your incision, because this helps into that also. But in topography, it's displayed as an Kf and Ks values. They differ from K1 and K2 and are calculated by the refractive power and the 3 millimeter diameter ring. So the advantage you get both, with you can have a refractive K also, and you can have the keratometer K value also. The another good thing that I felt about this, it gives you the asymmetry index and then a regulatory index. So you can just look at the color, like I mean, if you see as an A and comes in a green color, so that means the possibility of regular corneal astigmatism absolutely low. When you see a yellow color, and then the possibility of regular corneal astigmatism is slightly high, so you can get as a higher astigmatism, or you can get as an and in the C, when it's red, so there is a possibility of an irregular astigmatism, like you get a PMD or a keratoconus. And the new toric IOL screen, which is, as I said, that based on a Leica connection. So what you have to do is you take an image from this and put in your Leica microscope, so you can have a directly non-marker the calibration on the cornea. And then it comes within 2 pages. It has 8 different formulas, so you can have on each screen you can have a different formula, and also you can have a target reflection also. You want 0.5, 0.25, and accordingly you can select the lens. Now of course it has a different IOL parameters also. So that means you have to just choose your printout what you want it. You want a Barrett formula, you want an Olsen formula, you want whatever formula you wanted. Each screen and each IOL you can just select those formulas. And it has a Barrett formula, and also the new version that we have got it now, it has a Barrett universal has been extended to a Barrett True K also, which is a new version of an Barrett formula. Also, it has an Olsen database, which has a database of all the IOLs which are available, and it has almost about 168 models of an IOLs which are available on this database. And it also, like IOL Master 700, it also has a silicon oil setting. So you have to just go and shift from a vitreous to silicon oil, and you can get the biometry for a silicon filled eyes also. And this is a printout which you get it. It has all the information on one page, and also within a surgeon name. So suppose if you are in a hospital, you have 4 surgeon names, they can actually select their name and their data and their surgical A constant, and then put into that, and you can just get this data. It has an average K, PECI, and everything into that. So the take-home message is the satisfactory refractive results after IOL implantation depends on optimal biometry. An accurate axial length, entry chamber depth, and the K readings are essential for all biometric formulas to calculate the IOL power. And within a common usage of an toric and multifocal, which has become a normal practice nowadays, accurate biometry has become the more important than ever to reach the patient's expectation. And the most common preventable sources that we think of for your error is the incorrect axial length measurements and the keratometer readings. But these biometers really solve all these our problems. And then today, you talk to the patient, you are confident that what you're talking and you are going to achieve those results. Thank you very much. Dr. Amal, you are in mute.
Okay. So I thought, sir, that was a very, very lucid description of the equipment and the way biometry has become so important tool. I remember the time when we were postgraduate students holding the patient straight and keeping the probe straight, and then we shifted from that to an immersion, making the patient lie down, and then we shifted to IL 500s, and now we're talking about these swept source biometries. The crux of the situation is that as more and more formulas are coming in, uh, there is so much of information which is required now because we are dealing with patients who are very demanding, and the only thing they want is everything. I think my this is a past phase which me and my partner says, my patient is not very demanding. The only thing he wants is everything. So I would just ask Dr. Himanshu, do you have any experience? Because I had an experience with IOL 500. We have IOL 500s, and we also have this. And this machine, I've actually fallen in love with. 99% of the cataracts, it gives me a biometry. It's
Yes.
seldom said no.
Yes.
And with the so many variations of formulas available, combinations available, a very, very lucid printout, it's a big asset in my memory. So, Dr. Himanshu, any other experience you have with other biometers?
No, I'll tell you, the biometer is like driving a Ferrari. You give my car to Schumacher, he'll be first, and you give me his car, I'll be last. So it's like that. Your machine is what you want it to be. You need to understand your machine, most important thing.
Wonderful.
Your eggshell biometry is important. Your every machine has a mind of its own. Your keratometer manual will have a different one. Autoref will have a different one. Topography will give you something else. Your Varion will give you something else. Believe you me, IL Master 3 times will give you different reading. It's you and you who has to decide on whether you want to take the K reading axis from the topography or not. You don't take the K reading from that. So you make your norms. Whether you want a patient to put a lubricant eye drop before your eggshell length, no, I will not. Taught properly. No drops to be put before you do that. Basic
Yes.
fundas, these are more important. The machine comes into the picture later. And as said very clearly, in the talks, that eggshell biometry with laser, anywhere on a mountain top or underground remains the same, 99.9% accuracy. Question is the cornea. The question is how dry is your cornea, how well you take your K readings, how well you do the other things, and the lens thickness. And of course, you have such beautiful formula now. So you have to correlate all these things in a bigger perspective. The bigger issue and the challenge now is with the swept source, which will help us, is all those LASIK patients that Kamal has done. There's no patient without LASIK left in Delhi. Everybody is without glass. So when they get a cataract, and Dehradun, Gaurav to finish, there is nobody, everybody's without, even today he's without glasses. So those are the patients who are going to be a great challenge in the days to come, when we'll have to get your posterior K, and how will we be able to measure with the newer formulae. So I guess that true K, TK, and whatever names that we might want to give, Hill is really challenging Barrett at this point. Both of them doing a wonderful job from the two parts of the world. And I think, yes, that's what science would be all about. We have changed ourselves, we have grown, and we understood. So I guess we are on a good pathway right now.
Gaurav, what is your take? I actually feel dry eye or a bad surface plays a huge role in the way we get an end result, not only in the biometry, but also in the post-operative recovery of the patient. Would you just share your point of view on that?
Yeah, so you're absolutely right, Kamal. In fact, I think ocular surface has become such an important thing for post-refractive, post-cataract patients both, and especially that we are doing a lot of premium IOLs now. It makes a lot of difference to actually, in the preliminary checkup itself, be diagnosing dry eye and poor ocular surface in our patients, not only for a good biometry and a good, maybe a good astigmatism, calculation for toric IOLs. You need to have reliable readings, and also for judging whether this patient is going to do well with a premium IOL, and then managing dry eye post-op as well. So if some patients end up being dissatisfied, premium IOL patients with multifocals and all, the problem lies with the ocular surface. And if you tend to look at that, half the problems may be solved. We may keep doing eye trace measurements and lots of other things, and if we ignore the ocular surface, there it goes for a 6. So I think all these past lectures have really raised the point of ocular surface being very, very important. We must thank the cornea surgeons for doing that for us.
And another thing that I'll just add over here, probably, I mean, as I said, that I'm in love with this machine. what I do is, as Dr. Himanshu said, that you don't put. I mean, I also follow that you don't have to put on the drops before doing an oil power calculation. But the biggest advantage of this machine is it's just auto alignment. So what you ask an patient to blink it 3, 4, 5 times, and then you just shoot it, and immediately it just takes a reading. So that's the biggest advantage that I have found with this machine.
That's true, sir. Dr. Natasha is there, and Dr. Rohit, I can't see them any.
Kamal, I wanted to add a little bit about the machine. I've had the opportunity of using this. I am usually a Lenstar user, but I got the opportunity to use this Biometer, and I must say that it's really fantastic. I had it for 2 months. The ease of use. It's like a small machine with a small footprint, but it has so much packed into it, and ease of use, and so many things that you can get. Only thing which I missed was at that point were a couple of things which I think have been integrated now, like some of the formulas were missing. This is about a year or two back, and the readings and all were fantastic. It was taking everything well. I only found a little bit of problem getting the printouts from the machine. So later on I was told that you can get all printouts from the computer actually, and you can customize it to give you the printouts that you want. And as far as dense cataracts go, I think it does a fantastic job, compares very much to the Almaster 700, and I think it's a great tool to have for the price that you can get it much cheaper than an Almaster 700 for that matter.
Yeah, I guess, Gaurav, I think this machine actually is the bang for the buck. And we might have done more than 40,000 biometries on this machine, and it has never kind of failed us. And now with the newer formulas available on this machine, post-LASIK patient, as Dr. Himanshu says, post-LASIK, post-RK, post-PRK, it's made the job a lot more easier. It's narrowing the gap with the newer formulas, and in single page, you can have permutation and combinations. You have surgeon specifications. So I guess the technology is really making us walk up to the path which the patient wants from us. Dr. Rohit is here. Dr. Rohit, I just have a question for you. I've heard one of your sessions, dry eye patients and cataract surgery, they are always the dry eye needs to be taken care, both in the preoperative period before you do your biometry, it's important, but also for the post-op recovery of the patient. So your take on that, dry eye and cataract surgery.
I think I think we have discussed about this many times, that one of the major issues is the biometry itself. The repeatability of biometry goes down, especially when you mentioned about your keratometry readings. Mm-hmm. Small change in your keratometry would change a huge difference in your biometry. The other thing is, I'm going to talk about it today, about how your quality of vision deteriorates and how do you measure it. So I'll keep that question reserved for the end of the talk, for my talk.
Okay.